Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Dr. Charles special. Special meaning that it contains new startling discoveries that you can't get anyplace else. We are aware of two components of the Egyptian human body, the ka and the ba. These can combine to create a living organism in the ancient Egyptian mindset. The ka is defined as the life force. Where have we heard that before? The ba is symbolized by a bird with a human head. The ba and ka separate at death and are recombined for the resurrection in the afterlife. Combining them again basically just means animating the soul, ba, with the life force, ka. So, could ka be the same word as Chinese chi? It certainly means exactly the same thing. Herodotus curiously pronounced Khufu and Khafre with a softer, almost k sound, ch. Chephren or Kefren, Cheops, though pronounced like a kh. Therefore, ka could be pronounced according to Herodotus with a k sound. So, ka would be pronounced as ka, almost cha, or he, as in Chephren. In other words, he or chi is the ka word. Obviously, the Egyptians did not speak the same way for thousands of years, despite retaining hieroglyphics, so we can only approximate this sound. The ka and ba need to recombine for resurrection to take place in some form of a mystical alchemy. Is there a Chinese equivalent to ba, the soul? Yes, it's called po or fo. In Chinese texts, this is all to do with alchemy and the search for an elixir for eternal life based on gold. The Chinese were trying to dissolve gold and mercury into an elixir and then drink it in order to live forever. The reason is that they found a way to turn mercury back into its ore, cinnabar, something you can't do at all with other metals. Therefore, it was seen as an element of resurrection. And gold, obviously not rusting, means eternal life. The gold would be the soul, the ba or fo, which is immortal, and it just needs resurrection force, the chi or Egyptian ka, symbolized by Mercury. It was thought these substances were ordered by spiritual information, whose recipe could be incorporated into the human body, would you believe? As a result, Chinese emperors got mercury poisoning and went bananas. I wonder if Roman emperors did the same thing, as they thought they were immortal gods. This could be the real reason for their madness and not those lead pipes they keep talking about. Listen to this from a book called The Similarities and Categories of the Five in the Kinship of the Three from the 8th century. Gold is the seminal essence of the sun corresponding to the sovereign, and the principal chi of Tai Yang. Mercury is the fo, soul of the moon, and the principal chi of Tai Yin. When they are combined and absorbed into a man's body, he cannot die. Now for me, that statement, although Chinese, is just pure Egyptian. What the Chinese tried to do is combine literal gold and mercury into an elixir to make one live forever based on this formula, but I have to say the above is just straight ancient Egypt hermetic alchemical text. The Chinese connection is, to my knowledge, all new information because I just came up with it, so I assume no one said it, but it's obvious as day. The precursor to Osiris, a proto-Christ, was the Old Kingdom god Ptah. He's a wrapped-up mummy who keeps coming back to life. Cyclic resurrection are the two key words required to understand his role. I've said Ptah in previous videos must be Buddha. It's the same word really, and Buddha also kept resurrecting, and still does apparently. Both these gods were monotheistic-like deities. And of course there's another name for this god in the Germanic world, Odin. Number 2, the pyramid complexes. The Chinese pyramid complexes are the closest on Earth in terms of layout to the Egyptian pyramid complexes. what we see are curves or pyramids placed off center, looking like ancient Egypt. It's all very curious. The Egyptians used to also bring food and offer this food to their dead, and modern Chinese still offer food to their dead. Number 3, the names of the 4th dynasty rulers. The name of Khufu is actually totally an ancient Chinese name. There was a Chinese admiral explorer called Xufu, sometimes written Khufu, who went rogue and went off to found a kingdom somewhere according to legend. He was actually tasked with seeking the elixir of immortality by the first Chinese emperor, but he never came back. However, this guy lived well after Khufu, the 2nd century, that is the 2nd century BC. Now, I also suggested in the past that Khufu could also be a Germanic name, and if you look at the mummies, the Tamarin mummies, these seem to be Germanic people actually living in China, so they could have mixed together, a bit of both, in other words. Many 4th dynasty names, if you examine them, well, they sound to me like either Germanic or Chinese names. Germanic examples of names, the female variety of Khufu would be Gita or Gifa. The male versions, okay, ready? How about just Jeff? The ancient name Jeff for Khufu. That's Jeff, Kuf. As how do you make a soft G sound in Egyptian anyway? And so the KH syllable would be one way of doing it. The closest name I can find to Khafre, which is so similar to Khufu, is Jeffrey. Jeffrey sounds to me like Khafre if you use the soft K sound. That is the CH used by Herodotus. I think Jeff and Jeffrey, both ancient Germanic names, are basically the same name as Khufu and Khafre, just written with different letters. To me, the 4th dynasty seemed to be a type of Germanic Chinese people. Meanwhile, you look at names from the earlier 3rd dynasty, the dynasty of Joza or Joseph, some say. The names are very different. The pyramid complexes they made are totally different, more ziggurat-like, which is of course the land of Abraham. The Joza 3rd dynasty complex is east-west aligned, whereas the Khufu one of the 4th dynasty is north-south aligned, showing these were different cultures of pyramid builders, not one progression to another. I've pointed that out in my book. And you actually have names which sound more Judaic or Babylonian, showing that these 3rd dynasty people, they once ruled Egypt, and they were displaced by none other than Khufu's dynasty, possibly remembered, I think, as the oppressive pharaoh. I want you to, if you want, consult Herodotus and try and find the oppressive pharaoh the Bible speaks about. I'm not sure if Herodotus ever read the Bible or if it was written in his time, but the fact is you can't. There is only one oppressive pharaoh he speaks about, and this is Khufu, perhaps Khafre also, who enslaved the Egyptians. These two were endlessly hated. They clearly imposed their will on the earlier Jewish-like 3rd dynasty, possibly explaining why Khufu shut down all the temples, because he was shutting down their religion, their Jewish, proto-Jewish religion, oppressing them basically. These could be the pharaohs of the Bible who did not know Joseph. Why? Because they were simply from somewhere else and they entered Egypt. In addition, Khufu's burial boats. Now, I don't think the 3rd dynasty did that, but the 1st dynasty did that, and the 4th dynasty did that. So the burial boats remind me of the Tarim mummies. These are the Germanic-looking people in China who were buried in boats in the middle of a desert, or what is now a desert in Central Asia. But the Tarim Basin was once a huge inland sea. The people who founded ancient China, I think, also founded ancient Egypt.